Thank you for remembering that. Should have done it 15 minutes ago or 8 minutes ago. All right. Anybody from the floor wants to add anything to the New Jersey, New York Harbor and Tributary Studies hats? All right. So I'm going to introduce our keynote speaker, so to speak. Melissa Enoch from the New York City DEP. She's the Acting Assistant Commissioner for the Bureau of Environmental Planning and Analysis with the New York City Environmental Protection. Melissa, do I need to make you co-host? Do you have anything you want to share on the screen, or will you just be talking?
I do have a presentation.
Okay, so let me make you co-host that you can share your
Okay.
screen.
And can Sarah, Sheena or Sarah remind me how much time I have? I want to be cognizant of that.
About a half an hour and then Q&A if that works for you.
Okay, that sounds great.
And I mean, if you're so engaging that you want to go over a little bit, we can also shorten the Q&A. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Looks good over here, Sheena.
Great. I don't see anything coming up yet, though. There you go.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was just letting you know I have the
Okay.
keys.
Okay, good.
All right, so let me just reorient myself. We never use Zoom.
Oh, you don't use Zoom. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I understand your dilemma with Teams, so I usually just need a minute to get
You got this.
myself
Looks
together.
good.
Okay, I just
Great.
need to go to the beginning, sorry. Okay, great. Well, thank you for the invitation to your public meeting tonight. I have not presented to you all in a while, and I was going through some of our presentations and trying to remember the last time we'd all met. And it's been a while, and we've been doing a ton of work, but I will say we could do a little bit better about getting out into the community. And that's something we've been discussing as of late with our public affairs office. So at the end of my presentation, I put together a list of upcoming meetings. And if there are additional things that you suggest, we come out with, we can certainly talk about those. So I'm Melissa Enoch. I'm the Acting Assistant Commissioner for BEPA. That's the Bureau of Environmental Planning and Analysis. I know many of you all. I've been with the Green Infrastructure Program for 9.5 years now. Pinar Balsi was our Assistant Commissioner, and she left us in December. She's still in New York, and you may still be crossing paths with her. And she is a big miss for us, but we're still carrying on some of the great work that she was leading, and hoping that we can continue just accelerating a lot of our great work that we've been working on for so long. So Sarah was kind enough to share a couple ideas for me. She mentioned, some updates on the Green Infrastructure Program, MS4 program, the new Rainproof committee and symposium work that we're engaged on, and upcoming engagement events. So hopefully I've done a good job of pulling this information for you today. I wanted to just start with just a general update. You haven't heard from us in a while, but we've been really, really busy. One thing that I think is exciting to share with you all, and something that's new for us, we have been seeking out federal and state funding for green infrastructure and basically all of our nature-based solution tools at DEP. And this is a priority for our commissioner. It's been a priority for City Hall. And we have been leading the way on this work. So we've submitted over $400 million in funding applications over the last 3 years. And really, I want to say all but maybe 10 million has been over the last year and a half. So that's $390 million in the last year and a half. And it's kind of hard to say it because, you know, with these applications, and we've already been successful in receiving about 175 million of that 400 billion. That's a lot of grant management. And a lot of these funding sources are from agencies that we've worked with in the past because they, you know, FEMA has provided the city with funding over the years for hazard mitigation programming, but it's never really been something that's been available for nature-based solutions like green infrastructure. So that's new, and that means it's new for us. And so I'm really excited to tell you all that. I'm a little nervous too, thinking about how we're going to manage all this, but I think we're getting some resources together, and we're obviously grateful for the attention for these types of solutions for flooding and for water quality improvements. It's definitely a change that we've seen at the national level, certainly. So that's good news. I wanted to let you all know too that the Unified Stormwater Rule is out there. Wow, we are everywhere, and our team is growing. We're onboarding a lot of new engineers, junior and trying to get some more senior positions filled as well, because this rule is making an impact. I remember presenting to you all when we first started drafting the legislation and communicating that we were thinking we would be getting about, when we expanded to the combined sewer, we would be getting about 250 projects a year. We're exceeding that, which is good news. We're touching a lot of redevelopment in the city, but we're also, you know, a lot of people are complaining about our review timelines right now. So while I think it's great news that we're getting projects in and people understand the rules in place, I want to communicate that this is a challenge for us because we weren't quite ready at the staffing level when this rule was implemented, and it's been slow to bring people on. So you know, I think it's important for you all to know that because we had a lot of support from everyone on this call in getting this legislation passed, and we need to kind of continue to demonstrate why it's so important for the city and for citywide resiliency efforts, and how, you know, getting this stormwater managed on public and private properties as they redevelop is really the most efficient way to do it. We will continue doing our retrofits where we can, but this rule is really meant to institutionalize green infrastructure for everybody. And so everything that you can do to continue to show support for this work that we're doing, even though we are high profile for some developers who might be a little annoyed with us, it's helpful. So you know, we'll continue to communicate to you all the impacts that the rule is having on water quality and improvements in the city, and we'll be excited to share some of that in this year's Green Infrastructure Annual Report and also the MS4 annual report. So stay tuned on some of the benefits of this work. I also just want to say we have some really great positions open right now in our program. And so if you know, some of you are faculty in programs, and we hire a lot of students coming out of grad school or undergraduate programs, please spread the word. With the city's job postings moved to a new site, and it's been a little hard for some of us to share directly on LinkedIn. But I know some of you have found them and have been posting those job postings, and that's helpful for us. So please help us do that. We have we have new director positions open up, a new director of our integrated water management team, which is a very great position, leading a lot of exciting initiatives, including our cloudburst program, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. And then it's not posted right now. I just checked before this call, but any day now, a new MS4 program manager position is going up. And that position is very cool. The work that we do under our MS4 program touches on all stormwater initiatives in the city, not just our initiatives, but with sanitation and DOT and parks. And it's a really great position for someone who, has some technical experience, but is really, really good at engaging public and private stakeholders. So would love support in getting some of those positions spread out across the city so we get good candidates. So a quick reminder, there was a lot that happened last year, but one of the big things for our green infrastructure program is that we were successful in completing a modification to the 2012 CSO order for the GI section, which did a lot of things for green infrastructure. It expanded our toolbox and definition of green infrastructure to incorporate resiliency work like blue belts and cloudburst projects and daylighting and stormwater reuse. And so we have updated CSO volume milestones and new financial milestones, including an increase in our financial commitment from 1.8 billion to 3.5 billion, which is tremendous. And the modification gives us flexibility to incorporate newer technologies and multi-benefit green infrastructure so that we can expand our footprint. And I like to remind you all of this because there are a lot of times you come to us with ideas and projects, and in the past we've been unable to dedicate resources to that. But things have definitely changed for our program with this modification, and we're excited to continue thinking of great ideas with everyone on improving our water quality, but also adding in some of these additional resiliency efforts. So that modification is online, and we should have a good summary of that in our upcoming annual report. And just again, another reminder, we're still working towards our 1.67 billion gallon per year CSO reduction from green infrastructure alone. And so while we have this new flexibility, you will see us still prioritizing CSO reduction, green infrastructure, because that is still a big goal for us, and we still have a lot of work to do to get there. I know this map is not the greatest map. It's so hard to show a citywide map of all of the work that we do, but the one thing I like about it is that it shows you some of the areas where we've completed area-wide right-of-way green infrastructure. And so when I'm talking about right-of-way green infrastructure, I'm talking about the rain gardens and infiltration basins that we build in the sidewalks, and also porous pavement that we're building in public streets. So, from previous presentations that when we do this work, we build hundreds of assets in a contract at a time. And that's what gives us that good cost efficiency, helps us compete with gray infrastructure, keep our costs down, and keep the performance high. So each of these grayed out polygons are areas where we've gone in and we've saturated the sub-sewer shed with as much green infrastructure as possible. And because we have been a combined sewer program up until last summer, these are all priority combined sewer areas. The ones that you still see color in means they're in some sort of active stage. So the red in the Bronx, that's our brand new porous pavement projects that are in design right now with DDC, where we're looking to build 50,000 linear feet of porous pavement in streets. And then in the Queens, the yellow area is a rain garden and infiltration basin contract that we're in construction on now. And then down in Brooklyn, we have some projects where we are the CIO5. I know it's kind of hard to see, but those are rain garden and infiltration basin contracts that are in construction now. And then down here in like the Diker Heights area, south of Prospect Park, in Brooklyn, that's our OH15 green infrastructure contracts. Those are 4 large contracts for area-wide porous pavement. These are our first area-wide porous pavement contracts. And the first one is going into construction this spring, and it has been a long time coming, and we're really excited about this work. We see it as us finally showing the world what we've been piloting and why we think porous pavement is a good strategy for water quality, but also for resiliency. And this work that we've been building up for many years has led us to have new conversations with our partner agencies on how we're going to handle maintenance for porous pavement in the city. Because if this is a tool that we want to use to, make our streets greener and more resilient, then we need to have a strategy for maintenance. And so the picture you're seeing here is a pilot. It's a cleaning demonstration we did on Beach 108th Street, which is a new porous pavement project that was triggered by our stormwater regulations. Because DOT was doing a new traffic circle and some street enhancements in the Rockaways, and they triggered our stormwater regulations. So they had to build the porous pavement to meet, to be in compliance for the regulations. And we all came together one day last fall, and we demoed some porous paving cleaning equipment. And it was a really great day, and everybody was really excited, and it was really fun to have the agencies there thinking about how to scale this type of cleaning, and pre-maintenance and post-maintenance infiltration testing to ensure that the assets are performing, but how to scale all of this citywide. So we have a great pilot that we're kicking off with sanitation. They have a new porous pavement cleaning equipment coming in any day now, and they'll be piloting maintenance of right-of-way porous pavement throughout this year in 2 waves, in spring and fall. And that is information that we will use collectively, and by we, I mean all of the agencies invested in this technology, to really evaluate what will it take to maintain this green infrastructure moving forward. So excited to report out on progress on that, because there's a lot more to come, a lot more porous pavement coming, and we're really excited to show the world. The other update I wanted to bring to you all is about our Resilient NYC Partners contract. So we get a lot of good tips. Shino and Karen are like amazing. We hear from them almost weekly with ideas and properties, and our team evaluates those. And it's had a slow start. So, if you recall, many of you were involved in brainstorming this idea of doing a major investment in incentives for private property at a level that would spur the market and create a lot of flurry and activity. And so our sort of version of that became a $53 million contract. And we included language in the contract that required the contractor to go after what we considered to be the most cost-effective properties in the city. And those were projects that were 50,000 square feet or more of impervious area. And we set a performance standard for any green infrastructure built on those properties. And then we set $1 per square foot of stormwater managed, basically. And it's the first contract in the city where this has ever been done. And I think that's, a testament to the work that you all did and getting us to think a little bit differently. We're still the city. It's still difficult to have innovative contracts. So while it maybe didn't end up as in a place that everybody dreamed it could, I think, we got something that is starting to really work. And if you remember, we originally had a $250,000 per greened acre payment. We had to change that after the pandemic. Construction in the city is kind of a different reality, and we've had a lot of supply chain shortages and issues that have really increased construction. So we did a change order, and we're now paying $350,000 per greened acre. And what's happening is that Arcadis is getting projects to us. So last year, we completed a series of dry wells on the Holy Rosary School in Staten Island. It's a school that had been experiencing flooding for a long time, and they were going forward with some of their own stormwater management, and we heard about it, and we went to them and we said, how can we work in this parking lot with you? And it ended up that we were able to upsize their dry wells to capture the water quality volume. So to get the 1.5 inches, they weren't really thinking about a water quality project. They were just thinking of, storing what they thought they needed. So we upsized their dry wells, and we added a couple more and added a retention trench along the side of the building. And it was a great partnership. And we ended up with 1.1 greened acres on a school property, and we hear from them every time it rains, and they let us know that they don't have flooding anymore. So it's been a nice little success story here. We also just retrofitted this great project in College Point on College Point Boulevard. And this is a fun project because you're going to see a video. We just did this last week. We went out to the site and we put together a video explaining how porous pavement works and how we built R tanks, or we installed R tanks. They're additional storage cells under these porous panels along the perimeter of this parking lot. So we're managing 2.7 greened acres on this lot. It's entirely impervious. It's all pitched towards the street, and runoff was sheet flowing off of this property into the street, overwhelming the catch basins and causing some flooding. And so now we're keeping a lot of that stormwater on the property. And we were able to, do a couple innovative, a new trench drain by one of their other exit points, but use porous panels to infiltrate where we can, and then underneath of it add additional storage. And so the panels that you're seeing on the left side in the image, that's just the panels, the surface expression of the panels. Underneath, we're going even further out into the lot with these R tanks and storing more stormwater. So the property owner, Tom Mina, was really great to work with because his site is pretty programmed, but he also understood that, to solve his flooding problems on his site and to help, with our goals, he needed to think a little differently about how to use his property. But we moved all of these, they supply a lot of work for city infrastructure projects. And so we were able to work with them to move their equipment storage off of the panels, keep them free and clear so that they can infiltrate. And he has had minimal impacts to his property. So it was another good story here working with this property owner. We're in active construction right now at Greenwood Cemetery. They came to us with a whole bunch of projects, and this is phase 1. And this is these are the R tanks that I mentioned actually on the previous slide. And these are cells that are providing us with void space to store water. And this is under their service yard. They were having some ponding here, and I was just telling someone this morning that you would be surprised at how much stormwater runoff cemeteries generate. And I think if Willis is on this call, he gets this because he comes to us with cemetery ideas every now and then. But they just because a site is green doesn't mean it's not generating stormwater runoff. I mean, they have this whole service yard was paved. There's also a lot of paved paths. And then, green spaces, if they're compacted, you're not really getting stormwater infiltration. And so giving that water a place to go and to stay on the property was our goal. And we were able to do that in the service yard. This is, again, phase one of a larger project that we partnered with New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation on. They're funding some additional work, including some stormwater reuse and real-time controls in Greenwood's stormwater retention pond. And then we'll be coming back in for some rain gardens along their porous pathways later this year, I think in the fall. So lots of green infrastructure going in here. We just met with them recently to talk about how to do some signage to communicate to visitors some of the work that we're doing, because they do host a lot of public events, on site too. And so it's a good way to get the word out. And then we have a couple more projects that are in planning and design. So we have the first image on the top left is Fordham University in the Bronx. We're doing a demonstration rain garden with them, managing stormwater runoff from some of their big roadways. And they have a lot of really great ideas. Their VP of facilities and capital planning is just brilliant and has so many sustainability ideas and ways to partner together, and has this goal of sort of a net zero site. And so we've been working with them a lot. And so I think this is just going to be phase one with them too, because I think there's going to be more opportunities we can do there. The center picture is Pratt. We are going back to Pratt. We tried to work with them on our GI capital grant program, and we weren't successful. But now we have a new project in line. I know Leonel is so excited. You helped us with the most recent connection, and it kind of like went away, but now it's back.
Well, I wouldn't say it wasn't successful. Let's say it wasn't a continued success.
Continued success, exactly. And there's a lot of momentum on this project now, so we're really excited. And everyone there has been really great to work with. We're looking at some storage in the parking lot, and there's a couple other phases that are being conceptualized. The last picture is at Jacobi Hospital in the Bronx. We've been working with HHC on signing an agreement, and I think we're really close, and they have a lot of ideas as well. And we're primarily looking at storage in their biggest parking lot. So excited about that. And again, thanks for all of the support and bringing us projects. We're getting there, and I think we're making progress and getting some nice sized projects. Just one quick update from our MS4 team, because they're working on their public presentation, and you'll be getting notices about that in the draft annual report coming soon. But we did publish our coloring book, Drippy's Water Adventure. This was a partnership that the team did with the Fashion Institute of Technology. And it's a really great coloring book, and we have been giving these out to schools. We have a lot of teachers in the New York City school system who have environmental curriculum and have been asking for something, to communicate to students.
Sorry, Melissa, I think that person's muted now.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Sheena. So this was something that we worked on collaboratively across our public affairs office. And again, we've been dropping off copies to New York City schools, and you can access it at this link here. But was a nice thing to see get completed last year. Okay. Many of you know that we've been working on expanding our cloudburst program. So the cloudburst program started as a partnership with Copenhagen, where we did this sister city agreement to share best practices for using nature-based solutions for flood reduction and alternative sort of resiliency. And after Ida happened in 2021, we received money along with our partnering agencies, DOT and Parks, to officially launch our Cloudburst program. And so we have 4 funded hubs across the city. We have Park Chester hub in the Bronx, Casino Quarter, Park and Corona in Queens, and we have an East New York, that's the Hendricks Creek and Linden in Brooklyn. And so these hubs are fully funded. We initiated the design of these in October. So we are starting to do some community engagement in these funded communities, and you'll be hearing more about this. We're preparing a citywide public meeting just dedicated to the Cloudburst hubs and the work that we've kicked off. I wanted to just demonstrate and remind people that this is the concept. This is one of our concepts for Corona Hub. And the idea here, working with our partners at DOT who are implementing some safety improvement projects along 111th Street in Corona. The idea here is to add additional stormwater management to their projects, but to increase it larger than what our traditional water quality green infrastructure is sized for. So these are sized to alleviate flooding from 2.3 inches per hour. So a lot bigger than our traditional green infrastructure, with the goal of helping to keep some of that flooding, the stormwater flooding, off the streets. So these hubs are going to be using a combination of practices that you see us use generally. It's just sized differently. And they're also connected together to work as a system to reduce flooding. So they're using, the same concepts and the same performance metrics of absorption, through good infiltration rates and storage. Storage chambers like these you see here. These are chambers that we use on properties like, NYCHA parking lots or other spaces where we come in and we store stormwater under the pavement and then transfer. So there's this concept too of conveyance, using catch basins and conveyance pipes to move stormwater away from flooded areas and get it into the storage systems that might be offline more quickly. So more information coming on our Cloudburst program soon, but I just want to tout the team because we registered a $40 million design contract to jumpstart these Cloudburst hub projects in record time. We did it in just under a year. It was sort of impossible, but we did it. And all the stars aligned, and we were able to get 4 really good design teams, and they've all started their projects. And we'll be updating everyone on that a little bit in a little bit of time. Okay, so we got a request for an update on Rainproof. So Rainproof is something that we started working with Rebuild and One Architecture on last year. And by we, I mean DEP and multiple city agencies, including the Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice, Emergency Management, and Department of Transportation and Parks, and many city agencies are involved. But the idea here was really to start a group, a committee, that would be tasked with specific challenges that help us as a city, including city and non-city actors, think differently about the way we need to manage water and live with water. And so the process started last year with a public symposium that kicked off this brainstorming partnership with many actors. And we got a lot of public input and ideas that helped us shape our challenges, which I'll show on the next slide. But really the idea here is working with stakeholder input and technical experts and even other localities. We wanted to come together and create this deeper understanding of how to manage increased rainfall, but balance many of our other city needs, including environmental justice and our housing constraints, our economic situation, social resilience, and many more. So the idea is to continue to work with community members and fostering collaboration amongst all the city agencies to create policy initiatives and strategies for increasing our city's resilience. The terminology rainproof, there's been a lot of discussion about this with the city agencies and even some of the private landowners who are on these committees. That means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And the idea isn't really to rainproof the city, right? To like keep rain out of the city or stop our city from flooding. It's really to think about this idea that every drop counts. We have a lot of goals. We have water quality goals and we have flooding goals. And we really are looking for bigger ideas to manage stormwater better and to protect New Yorkers from risk of flooding, and to communicate that it is a risk in some areas of the city and we all need to do our part to minimize risk where we can. So we came up with 3 challenges. These were conceptualized after the public symposium last year. And each of these work groups has a public facilitator. They have 2 facilitators, a public facilitator from a public agency and from an NGO. And so we have for working group 1, this is the working group that's tasked with shifting New York City policies and coming up with a comprehensive plan for managing increased rainfall, which could include gaps in current infrastructure, but it's also about understanding risk as well. And so this working group is led by DEP and the Regional Planning Association. Challenge 2 is helping to develop a framework for an equitable buyout program for New York City. And this working group is led by Center for New York City Neighborhoods and the Mayor's Office of Housing and Recovery Operations, HRO. And so challenge 3 is a really broad one, and it has a lot of really great participants in it. I mean, they all really do. And there was a lot of competition for this, so it was a really hard selection process. But challenge 3 is about working with communities, the private sector, and other organizations to communicate this idea that there's shared responsibility for managing increased rainfall. So it's sort of like an education campaign. And it's the idea is really to just change the way we talk and think about this heavy precipitation that we're getting. So this working group is co-led by Green City Force and the Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice. So more to come. The working groups are meeting almost weekly. It's quite intensive. And I think when this was originally kicked off, we didn't think it would be a weekly kind of commitment. We were thinking every 2 weeks or monthly, but it's really, each working group is really digging in and coming up with their work plans. And so it's been great to be a part of it. We also wanted to mention that it fits very much in line with Plan NYC. And so this isn't a new initiative. It's really leveraging some of these other commitments that we've made and that we are actively working on within the agencies. And that includes this multi-layered strategy for flood resilience that was announced in Plan NYC, which includes working on a new stormwater flooding adaptation plan, and also continuing and expanding our work of using nature-based stormwater management solutions for their multi benefits, including water quality, but also some of the other functions that we get for ENCO benefits. And then also in Plan NYC was launching a voluntary housing mobility and land acquisition program. So working group 2 that I mentioned is very much in line with this Plan NYC commitment to work with engaged residents who live in these flood-prone areas and that maybe used to be historic waterways or are in very low-lying areas to help support those efforts and reducing flooding there. So the concept of Rainproof was really get a bunch of experts together, work with the community, and come up with some new ideas and initiatives for managing increased rainfall. It was intentionally set up as a time-limited program, not program, but initiative. So the effort is wrapping up in June, which means there's a lot of work to be done between now and then. There will be opportunities for public input along the way. I encourage you to go to the Rainproof website. And if you just Google Rainproof NYC, it's very Googleable. And look for updates there and find ways to join some of the public input opportunities. And then my last slide, there's a lot of things I didn't even touch on in this presentation, like Tibbetts Brook, which is our biggest green infrastructure project, and many of you are very actively involved in. But highlighting that the technical advisory group is reconvening at the end of the month. Amy Motsney is managing that tag and a large portion of that project, and so she'll be convening a presentation to the tag at the end of the month. The GI grant program still continues. We have a spring workshop scheduled in March. I mentioned that we're going to do a public meeting and update everyone on the citywide cloudburst program. You can expect that in March or April. We're trying to time all of these things with some other updates coming out of the city and some flooding town halls that you may have seen already. So we're coordinating some schedules with our public affairs office. We'll be doing our green infrastructure annual update presentation in May, and then our MS4 annual update will be scheduled in June. There's also more meetings that I didn't even list here that are still in the works. If you sign up for the New York City Water listserv, you'll be getting notifications for those. So please do that. And I think I hit a little over time. But that's all the slides I had. So I will stop sharing my screen.
That was great, Melissa. Thank you so much. And I didn't realize it's been such a long time since we had you. We're going to have to change that.
Yeah, and we can bring other members of the team too to get the real experts kind of focused on their project areas. So that would be good.
Yeah, that would be great. Sarah, what's next? Q&A, right?
Yeah, so we do have some questions that were typed in the chat as we went. I don't know. I'm happy to read those, but if folks prefer to just come off mute and start asking them, and then I can chime in for ones for folks who don't do that, if that sounds good to folks.
I had a few questions, but I'll defer to members and the general public first.
I think Louis had a few questions. Louis, do you want to ask those questions you had in the chat?
I see. Do you want me to just grab? I see one, Elena.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
On postings. I think this is a really good one. Okay, so are we hiring for positions for non-engineers? And the answer is yes, we are. We get this question a lot. So each of our program, we do hire a lot of engineers. We're a very technical program. We need engineers to, help design our projects and do design review, but we have non-engineering positions as well. Some of that could be construction management. So we do inspections that can be a construction management position. We do have GIS positions. I don't think there are any GIS focused positions open right now, but we have, all of our planning teams use GIS, and we do have planning positions posted. There's 4 or 5. We also have green infrastructure positions embedded with our partner agencies. So sometimes there's one up right now for DOT. They work with our planning team at DEP. They just sit at DOT and they help do a lot of our work, but that's a planning position as well. So yes, definitely we do hire engineers, but we also hire non-engineers in all of our programs because we have a lot of other skills that we need.
Great. And Louis just said that he's unable to unmute. So I will read his. He had at least 2 that I
Wait,
know
he
of.
has his hand up though.
Oh,
Louis, can you
okay.
talk now?
Yeah, it just happened. Yeah, if
Got
you
it.
want to read
Great.
yeah, I don't have to talk. I mean, I'm very pleased letting a pleasant voice ask my questions for
We'd
me.
always love to hear your voice. Please go ahead.
Do you? Yeah, I'll have to tell that to my mother. Listen, the big thing I really am into is community engagement. And I think it would be great if forget the other questions if you want. I think it would be great if you could get together on a horizontal basis the city organizations, the city departments, plus maybe the state departments, to do a presentation in each of the communities that revolve around 1 or 2 similar topics so that everybody in the community can then ask.
Yeah, Louis, I always appreciate you bringing this up. You have been very open about your thoughts on how we can better our community engagement. And I think that's a great idea. One idea that we've been doing that kind of is what you're describing. It's a little narrow, but we've been doing these flooding town halls, and they're focused on flooding, but they bring together DEP for infrastructure, emergency management for response, FEMA for, emergency response. And then we have other, Red Cross has been coming to them and bringing resources. And so it is kind of this city-state joint effort to talk about, a specific topic. So I think that's a model we could think about here and replicate. And I'll definitely give that feedback to our public affairs office. So thank you.
Yeah, that would be great. And I was just a little surprised by your droopy character. You see the note that I put in? It's
Drippy?
so much like the Con Ed character.
Con Ed has a water drop? I'll have to look. I'll take a look at the Con Ed.
Judy, go ahead.
Okay. I had a question in the chat about porous pavement in terms of how much upkeep and maintenance it needs compared with green infrastructure of plants.
That's a great question. Well, we've been monitoring and testing the porous pavement pilots that we built across the city, and we've come up with a maintenance specification. And so in the right of way, I'm not talking about within parks or other properties, but within the streets, we've found that we really should be cleaning it once in the spring and once in the fall. And we do pre-maintenance infiltration testing and post-maintenance infiltration testing to make sure that the infiltration rates are at the performance where we get our water quality benefit. And that's what our testing has shown us to date. This pilot program that we're launching with DSNY will be a really good test of that theory. But so far, that's what it looks like for us. We did do a couple of our areas, and we found that we still had really great infiltration rates even after only cleaning one season, but they're better if you do both spring and fall. So that's our goal right now.
Wouldn't they be better on sidewalks rather than roads with cars, which would be releasing tire wear particles and everything like that into it? I should think sidewalks would be preferable.
It's interesting. I just looked at a design today for new porous concrete pavers on sidewalks, and we're starting to see some of those in projects that trigger our unified stormwater rule. We don't have experience implementing a sidewalk porous concrete. Most of the reason for that is because the biggest opportunity we have is in the roadway, and we have a lot of leeway there. It's a shallow asset for us, and we have good utility clearance. So we have a lot of opportunity in the roads, but we're starting to see school construction authority and private developers looking at porous sidewalks. So we'll be studying that closely.
Thank you.
It's my turn. So Melissa, I'm glad that you have said that you're not doing that necessarily in private properties, because I think that was one of the things that precipitated the original green infrastructure grant project at Pratt, was that there was a failure of an existing porous pavement installation due to probably lack of maintenance, but I didn't say that in the recorded session. I would love to talk to you about that project off to the side, but I think my question is around Rainproof, and it dovetails from Lewis's question about engagement, but specifically as Swim Coalition and its members, and given our historic roles really in engaging and helping move together with the city on various initiatives on water quality and green infrastructure, et cetera. What are the, in addition to participating in the public process following on Rainproof, what are the ways in which this long-term advocacy and knowledge and expertise from our networks is being considered as part of Rainproof? I know that Shino is part of one of the working groups, but I don't know if there are many other historic actors outside of city agencies. And what are the potential outcomes of Rainproof that we might need to understand as a coalition to know, if this will become enforceable or lead to legislation that we need to kind of potentially engage with you on?
Yeah, really great question. I mean, we've been talking a lot as across all three working groups about how to do exactly what you're asking. And so part of it is that every, expert that applied and was accepted into the working group is charged with representing or getting feedback from important groups and bringing that into the working group. So that's, one responsibility of everybody. Now, I'm not putting any pressure on Shino because Shino has like a lot of roles. But, the other thing too is the deliverables for each of these working groups are being shaped now, and they will look very different across each working group. Some might be recommendations to change codes or implement new programs or education campaigns, or I'm just throwing out ideas. I think the recommendations are going to look different, and each working group is coming up with their work plan and kind of framing that now. And so as we get information, as each working group starts formulating these ideas, you can expect more engagement happening. And I know some of the working groups have suggested briefings, for groups. And I think someone has been in touch with you all. And I know SWIM has requested a briefing, in-depth briefing. So I think you should continue, requesting that opportunity, and also look for the public input parts of this process. There's supposed to be a calendar on the website. And so some of that information will be going up soon.
Thanks.
Thank
I
you.
just want to make sure that, all of the work that's been done and is continues to be done by all of these wonderful people and beyond is
Yeah.
considered as part of this, especially if there are decisions that are made that affect existing
Definitely.
policies and
Yeah.
plans.
And I don't want people to think it's mostly city agencies. It's really not. It's mostly non-city, which is exciting and hard for some of us because it's something that is a little new. You know, we've done these in the past, and I think one of the models is like the green codes, you know, that came from the original Plan NYC, and it's a good model. There's a lot of catching up to do in the first few weeks. It's like we're trying to establish a baseline. What is the city doing, and how do private developers feel about doing more? And you know, so a lot of that is happening, but yeah, a lot of more to come on this.
Melissa, I do want to be respectful of your time, but Ira has his hand up. Do you mind one more question?
For
Sure.
me, you want me to back off? I don't mind.
And
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, Ira.
Kind of talking about what Lewis was getting at, the social engagement. It's community engagement. It's really tough. Community boards always come to my mind, but quite honestly, very few people attend them. So maybe it's not the best place. I was just wondering, community boards I've been to, I live near Riverside Park in Manhattan, and the architect there does not believe in porous pavement. So I don't know if I think you need to do a dog and pony show to all the other agencies, because you're not all on the same page. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Ira. Yeah, I mean, please do send ideas for enhancing our community engagement. I did see that someone, you know, said the new social media posting we're doing is good. And we hired a social media director. That's her full-time job. That's why you're seeing more posts. And that was something that was recommended because we weren't doing a good job engaging young people. And, you know, we were trying to get more caught up with some of the other agencies that are doing that. If you have ideas for how, you know, we can get into the communities better, let us know. We do go to every community board that requests we come and speak with them. And that's been happening, you know, a little bit in areas where we're starting to build rain gardens, or they see our markouts and we come and do a presentation. But I'll take this feedback back to our public affairs team too, and we can brainstorm on that a little bit more, but do send your ideas. And then the idea of porous pavement in parks, we do a lot of porous pavement in parks. And sometimes there is pushback depending on, you know, who is ultimately looking to program the space or what the maintenance needs are. But we do porous pavement in parks, and parks has some of their own porous pavement projects. So there's always opportunity to share more. And where we have a lot of parks going into construction this year, 30 to 50 we're doing retrofits at, and you'll see new projects all summer long going up. So we can, you know, probably do a better job of sharing, cross-sharing where we are doing some of this work with, you know, our agency partners.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. We have thanks, Leno. We have a few more questions. So if it's okay with you, I'll follow up with you offline with some, and then we can follow up with members. And obviously anyone on the call, if you have other specific questions and need help having us facilitate getting answers for those, obviously feel free to reach out to us as well. But I really appreciate your time so much. It was such a great presentation, and hopefully next time it will not be so long between the presentations, so that we can get more up-to-date information as you go and continue to do these amazing things. So we really appreciate it, Melissa. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for the invite, for the great questions. Really appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thanks. Amazing. So we're going to switch to the next item on the agenda here, and Mike is going to give us a quick update on water rate stuff and what's happening since we all last spoke.
Thanks, Sarah, and hi, everyone. You know, I'm not sure how deeply I need to go into these issues. I think they should be mostly familiar. Certainly familiar to our DEP friends, and thanks, Melissa and co, for all the great work you're doing. So we have been, SWIM has been a leader in calling for the city water board to implement stormwater rates. This would separate out a fee that we're already paying for, separate out a stormwater fee, be paid based on the amount of stormwater coming off your property. As it stands now, we're all paying for this fee based on how much water we use. So we're paying for the runoff from big properties, from the Costco's of the world, by virtue of how much we're paying for our water bill. And your landlord, of course, pays a water bill, but that is typically passed through rent. So we have, for years and years, maybe 10 years, pushed the water board on this. And we were finally privy to the city's thinking on this in writing at their the Sustainable Rate Study Analysis kickoff, or maybe one of their second meetings. The city is reviewing this potential to separate out a stormwater fee as part of a larger review of stormwater rates, feasibility analysis, and looking at affordability concerns and a whole universe of different ways to implement water rates and sewer rates. That study is currently sitting in draft with the city. We thought it would be out by now, but it is very close. We'd love to see it as soon as the city is ready to publish it and show it to us. So we were pushing on the city to release that study. And as part of what the city had shown us in draft and in discussions that we had with them, the city said that they were not sure that they would have authority, that the water board would have authority to separate out the rates, and that there was some unclarity as far as the city was concerned. We, Riverkeeper, I think SWIM, we very much disagreed with that premise. We think that the authority is very clear. The city could do this now. Nevertheless, we worked with Emily Gallagher's office and a number of people that are probably on this call, especially Shino and others, to draft a legislation that would sort of clarify the city's ability to the extent that there is any question that the city would have authority, and not only New York City, but every city across the state would have authority to separate out stormwater fees so that this type of fee would be possible. The end goal here is that the fees that are levied and collected by the city would be then used for stormwater management and especially green infrastructure. So there would be, and there's potential for an incentive program that would allow for green infrastructure on public and private properties that are paying stormwater rates. So we see this as a win-win. There's this sort of carrot approach, you know, the stick approach, in that you're paying for these water rates coming off your property, and then a potential carrot for green infrastructure development. That would be borne out through the bill. The bill is A4019. We are hopeful that it will pass this year. And in order to do that, we need support for it. A number of groups have signed on to memos in support. We could use everyone's support for this. We could also use you calling your legislator and your legislators to talk through this issue with them and get them signed on as co-sponsors. There are a lot of assembly member co-sponsors to this. I think there's a lot of support generally for it. One question that we have gotten a lot is, where's the city on this? And that is a good question. We have not heard yet from the city. We would love to hear exactly what the city's take is on this bill, whether it supports it or opposes it, or, you know, whatever the city would like to do on it. It would be to our advantage if we could get the city to speak about it publicly put their opinion on it in writing. So we make that request of you, DEP, and I know that we've made that request before, but that is something that we really need and we think will help move the bill one way or the other, hopefully to passage this year. So as far as what SLIM can do, what SLIM members can do, a memo in support of this legislation, as well as contacting your local or your state electeds to help get this bill pushed through. So our key focus at Riverkeeper, and I know we've been working closely with a lot of folks at SLIM, is to get this bill passed and get the city's rate study finalized. In what order of that, which comes first, I don't know, but we would like to see both of them at some point this year. And that would sort of clear the deck, and there would be no more excuse for the water board but to implement this this type of rate structure. That said, it would be at their discretion, so we would be lobbying the board at that point to talk about the rate. That's all. I hope I didn't lose too many of you, and I appreciate you listening.
Can I quickly jump in for additional talking points here? So there are a couple things that are super duper important for you all to be aware of. This is not a new fee. It is not a tax. This is something that we're all already paying for. This is really important because this is the state election year this year. And the minute this discussion becomes, oh, it's a new tax, then it's going to be super difficult to move it forward. It's not a new tax. It's not even a tax. It is a fee for a service provided by the DEP, and we're already paying for it. So those are the talking points that I really would like you to be clear on when you talk to your legislators or your colleagues or whoever you're going to be talking to. And this bill does not require the city to take action, as Mike alluded to. It just clarifies the authority of the water board to implement the fee. The state is not telling the city you have to do this. That's also important too. So I think SWIM and Riverkeeper are going to be creating some fact sheets and maybe some talking points and maybe include some mythbusters in that. So I do want you to be careful because there have been other municipalities in the past outside of New York State that had a hard time passing this because the conversation turned into this is a tax. And in some of the more conservative areas, that's a, dead on arrival issue. So stay tuned for more information from us on this. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you. And thank you, Mike. That was really helpful. Awesome. So the next thing on the agenda is we're going to go into some breakout rooms and do a deeper dive into getting some feedback from you as members. So I'm going to turn it over to Leonel, who will give a quick primer on sort of the framing for the room and the conversation whenever you're ready, Leonel.
Did you want to put up that page of our website on there?
Yeah, Shabani's going to do it for me in 1 second.
Okay. So as many of you know from attending our most recent meetings, SWIM has been undergoing a strategic planning process, which has been lengthened as a result of the transition from Julie, who is here, or might still be here, hi Julie, to Sarah as the program manager. But we've established some revised mission, vision statements and goals, which you can find on our webpage. And maybe Sarah, you can put the link for that on here as Shabani shows it to us. And at this stage now, we're really looking at how we hope to accomplish this and how that may build on, diverge, or update, or really change from the way we've done things in the past. And the goal really here is to be more inclusive, which is one of our goals, right? And to be more interactive and engaging and participatory with our member organizations and partners. So what we hope to do today is to answer a set of questions, hold on, which I'm going to drop in, to have you help us answer in breakout rooms, or begin to answer a set of questions as to how you hope to engage with us in this year and moving forward, and what are your highest priorities as members and as partners and as members of the general public regarding our mission and vision and goals around water quality, green infrastructure, and participatory processes in environmental education. So here are the questions. We'll share these in breakout rooms with all of you. We'll have a member of the steering committee taking notes. This will be for about 30 minutes, but we will follow up and perhaps have dedicated meetings to follow up on this in the future. This is just another touch point in this process. And we'll reconvene at around 5:45 for just some high level reporting back and just to say goodbye and plan for next steps. So Shino, are you putting
Yes,
people
I'm
into
gonna,
breakout rooms?
yep.
Okay.
And just to let some folks know, if your email ends with .gov, you're in the same room. So
Who's running that breakout room?
Holly is.
All right.
Okay, so get ready. Here we go.
I think we also want to take this up. Thank you so much to everyone. Is this a breakout room?
Yeah, I assigned you to a room.
Sorry, I dropped right when I started talking.
Wait, all right. So you're in room 6. If you go to your 3 dots that says more and pull up breakout room, you should pull up join.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye. Holly, Sarah, Shivani, Mike. Georgiana, do you need help moving to the breakout room?
No,
Yes, I assigned you to room 1.
I'm having problems hearing on my computer.
Oh, okay. Thank you, you too.
Amazing. Thank you all. I know we had a great discussion in our breakout room. Did anyone want to, is there anything anyone wanted to highlight from your breakout rooms of sort of a point that you felt resonated or maybe was new or unique or that came up 14 times? Any flags, highlights, big picture? I'll start. I know we, lots of discussion, but I think one of the things that was really helpful for me in terms of helping to guide swim and going forward was just a reiteration of the technical and localized support that swim can offer, even though we're citywide, the support we can offer locally. And I was encouraged to hear that the organizations in the room also felt that if for some reason swim wasn't already paying attention, they would feel very comfortable just reaching out to us to make sure that we knew about it, which is what I hope everyone feels comfortable doing. So if there's something localized happening, please just reach out. We'd be happy to support or find ways to support. But also sort of the scope documents and doing things like reading the legislation and creating some of the talking points and draft memos and comments and that kind of stuff, folks found really helpful. To add a new and sort of established and respected voice into these conversations on behalf of all the members was appreciated.
Now, I'll say that was part of our discussion too, is what role can swim play in, say, presenting at community boards around certain issues, or, continuing to engage. I mentioned some of our work that we've been trying to restart on water quality, one-on-one and green infrastructure tours, and how that could be coupled with our partners locally, or, with, lobby visits, etc. So it was an interesting discussion and a lot of interest in growing right-of-way green infrastructure that's vegetated.
Mm.
I'll jump in just because something came up at the very end of ours with Holly, which was, in this meeting, there's a lot of acronyms thrown around and the need for more education. I have the feeling that a lot of people who are very specialized are part of these meetings, but to kind of expand it out so that we aren't just throwing out acronyms all the time without defining them. But toward that end, also more education. I think the tours sound good, public education, but also youth education, and maybe I think the sewer shed maps that you guys produce are a great thing, and being able to do more programs, education programs, maybe partnering with groups. Congresswoman Velasquez got money for stewardship programs for H2O in Highland Park, Ridgewood Youth Council, Brooklyn Bridge Park Conservancy, as a harbor program. So, and of course, Billy and Oyster, and they do great work too. So maybe partnering with those to kind of get more education out there, I think would be helpful.
Beautiful. Yeah, we found out that there is some curriculum. Newtown Creek Alliance actually has some, because that came up in our conversation as well. So maybe even just like a member survey of what resources do exist, and making sure folks know about those too.
Our group had a very pretty great, robust conversation around water quality, and particularly for water users, making all of the information and the data from all the various disparate agencies and community groups and all the different water body groups, kind of condensing them into one visual map where folks who want to use the water can go to, and they don't have to know how to interpret the spreadsheet and all of this information and know EPA levels like the backs of their hand, right? And so that that there's an analysis and an interpretation, so there's not just raw data for those who can't necessarily interpret that on their own, but are interested, want to bring things to their local community groups and their neighborhoods, their neighbors, their friends, things like that. There was also some information of, you know, if we can find out the information and then disseminate it, and then they further disseminate it. So there was some great conversation around that, about the ability to reach out into the communities a little deeper, having these points of contact meeting through swim. So thanks everybody who was in my group, and shout out to Cody who helped me take notes. Thanks.
Amazing. 3 minutes left. If anyone has any last thoughts, comments.
I would like to tag on to Dan's thing about education and ask for professional development, or a way to, we're all advocates, we're all trying to do our thing in our local communities. I don't know most of you. I know some faces. I have some friends here, but we're all trying to do the same thing. And the better we can share our knowledge and help each other advocate for all the important things, the better we can serve our local communities. So if I've really gotten frustrated at trying to find information, and I feel like people have parts of it all around the harbor in different places. But if we could have some kind of think tank of advocacy and how to pursue our goals, I would really appreciate that, and meeting all you guys and, you know, saving the planet, right?
Thanks, Gary. Amazing. Well, I cannot thank you all enough for sticking through this meeting, 2 hours in on whatever day of the week it is, a Thursday. I really appreciate it. So excited to get all the notes from all of the working groups and compile them with everyone, and figure out exactly what next steps are for swim and things like that. I know that we owe a few updates to folks. If anyone had questions specifically, like for Melissa, or wanted help facilitating reaching out to her, feel free to reach out to us. Like I said, we'll follow up with next steps, figuring out how to get some of this information and some of incorporating all of this back into SWIM's priority and the way we prioritize the work, right? The whole point is that SWIM is as strong as our members, and really here to support all waterways and water quality overall for the city. But know that you all are also the experts actually in the field and in your local communities. And we don't want to do it without you, and we couldn't do it without you. So really appreciate your time and your thoughts, and look forward to seeing and talking to you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. All right.